One. Former U.S. Ambassador to UN, Nikki Haley, joins us now. We're in the unique position of having you react to what we all just heard in real time. The Defense Secretary Austin also just confirming that he'll be traveling to the Gulf next week to thank all of those involved in this mission. What did you think about what you just heard there from both Austin and Milley?
You know, Sandra, I have to tell you, I was really disturbed by that press conference because all they did was talk about how they closed this out. It was like they wanted a pat on the back. It's like they wanted to say that this book was closed. The book is not closed because you have hundreds of thousands of Americans still sitting there in Afghanistan that need to get out. So this book is not closed, and it goes against the moral code of the military, which is you leave no American behind. So Austin and Milley know that. They know that every military veteran, combat veteran like my husband, is still thinking about the Americans that were left behind, still thinking about the Afghan allies that are behind. So to imply that this book is closed, to say that you're going to a diplomatic operation, is implying that you're going to a hostage situation. There's nothing comforting about that. Now, I appreciate that General Austin is going to the Gulf. Right now, more than anything, we need to be making sure we rebuild these relationships with our allies that don't trust us now, that don't trust the decisions that we make. But don't forget, the military combat veterans, the veterans all over this country are sitting there thinking, but what about those that we left behind? They have to answer that. And I don't know what that press conference was. For journalists to be asking Milley and Austin about their pain and anger, it's not about their pain and anger. It's about the pain and anger of the American people. Those were the most softball questions I've ever heard at a time where we have a lot more questions that aren't being answered. And that goes to the conversation that supposedly took place between Biden and Ghani. For Biden to sit there and ask Ghani to change the perception of what was happening, the total wrong thing for a president to do. You don't go asking another leader to change perception. You go and say, okay, something's wrong. We have to change direction. This is not going the way we want it to go. That was a warning sign. And because he was worried about the political optics, he's asking a foreign leader to fake it as opposed to actually changing direction and doing things that would save more lives. The whole thing's a bit disturbing. I don't get it.
You know, Ambassador, it's John Roberts here. You can change the perception as much as you want, but it doesn't change the reality on the ground, and that is that the Afghan military and government would fold up faster than a cheap suit. I wanted to ask you, because you used to work with the State Department, about these Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty workers who were left behind. I mean, they were ones who were, putting out there the U.S. and the NATO ally word against the Taliban. They are now, I'm sure, fearing for their lives as to what might happen. What are your thoughts about this many people who were working on behalf of the U.S. government being left behind, and what might happen to them should the Taliban discover who they are and where they're living?
I mean, this is anti-American. I mean, you don't go and forget people just because you want a war to be closed. The war's not over just because the last plane left. There are people there that saved lives, that gave us information, that were helpful at a time that we needed it. You can't forget about them. And it's not just the message you're sending to Americans around this country, it's the message you're sending to countries around the world. I was at the United Nations. The one thing that made us strong was the fact that we valued life above everything else. It's why every country, whether they liked us or not, saw us as the moral authority. We have completely lost that at this point, and something has to be done to self-correct this. It's just, what is happening now is unacceptable. We need answers. We need transparency. But more than anything, we have some lives to save. This is not over. They're stuck there, and we all know what the Taliban will do to them. If any negative word was ever said about the Taliban from any of them, they will be killed. This is a brutal jihadist group that cannot be negotiated with, that cannot be trusted, and we have to start acting like that.
Chairman Milley said at the end there that there will be a review of this withdrawal. How we got to this point, he said, will be studied and analyzed for years to come. Ambassador Haley, really appreciate you hanging on with us through the news conference. Great to get your reaction to it. Thank you.
Thank you.